scheduling coaching calls, answering questions from my students. Mostly checking up on my students though, because I am very heavily invested in their progress. When all of a sudden my student Dujam from Slovenia hits me up with this message. And I was like, a video on daddy issues. Bet. Shout out to Dujam for the idea. I really appreciate it. And with that said, let's talk about daddy issues. First things first, we have to understand what daddy issues are. And as far as I'm concerned, especially with regards to daddy issues in women, they are the result of an incorrect formation of respect, trust, and comfort between a woman and her father, especially during her formative years. Basically, when you're a kid, you're like a sponge for information. You're constantly trying to observe, absorb, assimilate, and digest the world around you. But if for whatever reason your ability to observe and assimilate the world around you is impeded, or even worse, the environment you grew up in is not a healthy representation of the world at large, then you're going to grow up having some deep rooted misconceptions about how the world works, which in turn forces your subconscious to turn you into a person that can withstand this incorrect version of the world you formed in your head. Another simple formulaic way to say it is incomplete environment plus faulty perception equals bad decision making. I'm sure we're all aware of the stereotypical woman with daddy issues, or at least the ones we've been trained to believe are the symptoms of daddy issues. Because there's something shocking about daddy issues you don't know yet. Here's what I've come to find in my personal experience. The truth is, and you're probably not going to believe this, but there's actually two different kinds of daddy issues. The first is the most common and most popular kind, the kind you were probably thinking about the entirety of this video up until now. The daddy issues born specifically from abandonment. For the girls with this specific kind of daddy issues, the major theme of their formative years was the absence of a father figure. Dad left to get the milk and never came back, probably went off to start a whole different family. Or for whatever reason, because of the specific situation, the dad just didn't want to sit back and raise the kid. Usually that means the girl is raised by a single mother, which is a terrible idea because women hate each other. I said that in a video months ago and I got attacked by a bunch of women as if this isn't already scientifically proven. Like seriously, when you have the chance, go and do your research on this. It will genuinely baffle you what you find, and it'll change the way you view female to female relationships. But this isn't the video for all that. We're not talking about mommy issues. We're talking about daddy issues. Back to what I was saying, for the first kind of daddy issues, which stems from abandonment, the key symptoms are, but are not limited to, bad decision making, because usually it's your father that teaches you the skill and art of good decision making. And yes, for those of you that didn't grow up with a father, decision making is a skill. Another major symptom is misandry and disdain for men. I can confidently say that over 90% of the women who are misandrous and who openly hate men have been abandoned by a man. So in a way, it kind of makes you feel sorry for them. You can't even really blame them. Hurt people hurt people. You feel me? Another symptom is callousness, nonchalance, and erratic behavior. This is also kind of connected to bad decision making, but this has a lot less to do with the skill of decision making and just general impulsivity. Because think about it, if you were not taught to have a father to look up to, then by definition you don't have the evolutionary pressure to act right. Because growing up with a father figure that you look up to and respect gives you the incentive to act right. No father figure? Wild out. Now let's talk about the second kind of daddy issues. And quite honestly, this is the piece of information that'll connect a lot of dots for you, so pay close attention. The second kind of daddy issues is what I like to call an overly involved father. Or more specifically, present father, physically, but absent masculine presence. And in my humble opinion and personal experience, this one is way worse than the first. Because the first type, born from abandonment, is very obvious. You can spot all the red flags coming from a mile away. But this second type is really tricky and hard to identify. In fact, these women look nothing like your typical woman with daddy issues that you've been accustomed to. They look and sound well balanced, they seem level headed, and on the outside they seem to have a fantastic relationship with their father. And ironically, as crazy as it sounds, that's the fucking issue. Follow me on this. It's one thing to have no father growing up in your formative years. It's another thing to have what, in my opinion, would be a misrepresentation of a man for a father in your formative years. These women have daddy issues because their fathers are terrible misrepresentations of masculinity. Although they may have grown up in a two-parent home, They watch their mother use, abuse, disrespect, and belittle their father the entire time, and now are frankly mistaken to believe that this is how all men are. They see men as supplicating, spineless submissives, and walk through life treating men with that air of arrogance and entitlement. If you ever hear some bitch say some shit like, my dad is my best friend, that's the kind of woman I'm talking about. I mean, really sit down and think about how wrong this statement is. Your father, if he does his job correctly, should not be your best friend, or confidant, or buddy, or equal. Your father should be your fucking father. A man you look up to for guidance, protection, leadership, and most of all, safety. A man who has been given the job of teaching you through life from his experience and imparting you with the wisdom and skills to move your way through life confidently. Not your fucking best friend. I can honestly keep going on with this forever because people frankly underestimate how big a problem this actually is. As humans, because of our advancements in technology and our ability to tap into our limitless mind, we quickly forget that we too are animals in the animal kingdom. And like my boy Caesar Milan would say, in the animal kingdom, distance and interval equals respect. Space equals respect. That's a shitty Caesar Milan impression, but I'm sticking with it. As the father raises his daughter and builds boundaries around her for her own protection, there must also be one, psychologically, that surrounds him, so that she doesn't begin to see her own father as her equal and begin to lose respect for him. Like every other relationship on this planet, the best father-daughter relationships are the ones where the respect is still intact. Unfortunately, from what I've seen over the years, the biggest culprits by far for these very faulty father-daughter relationships are the stepfather-stepdaughter relationship. Divorced father is a close second, but these ones are like atrocious. Personally, I suspect it's like an overcorrection or overcompensation on the stepfather's part to show as much affection and as little hostility for children that aren't his that he's raising. So he ends up spoiling the daughter and becoming her personal doormat, which in turn doesn't help her future relationships because, like I said before, guess what she's going to treat the men in her life like? It's a weird full circle. So the question is, what do you do with all this information? As we all know, daddy issues are a global epidemic, no matter what type you're dealing with. So how do we deal with women with daddy issues? I'll tell you how. Simply put, be a better daddy, yo. All women with daddy issues, no matter what type of daddy issues they may have, are really just crying for help. That's right, from now on, I want you to see all the symptoms of daddy issues as a very obvious cry for help, because that's what they are. And it'll take some serious leadership skills to correct them. We're talking about a woman that generally has a distorted view of men. She may have an irrational fear of men. She may feel unsafe or uncomfortable around men. She may try to overcompensate because of that fear and become overly sexualized, because that's how she's learned to deal with the fear, thus allowing everyone to have access to her, which is not good for anybody. Either way, it's all just a cry for help. Now, the best part about all this is that you get to choose if you want to help at all. You don't really have to if you don't want to. But I'll let you in on a little secret. All these bitches got daddy issues. Shh. So basically, as long as you're not homosexual or one of these, I don't know, MGTOW dudes, you're pretty much stuck with these problems. Thankfully, as a man, you've already been naturally equipped with the tools to deal with them. Your strength, guidance, protection, leadership, all those things help you with her daddy issues. And she will be eternally grateful. Trust me.